Gentlemen, because you're going to see highlights in the life of a great personality who was loved not only by millions of people all over the world in the movies he made, but by the friends who worked with him in the industry. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our host, Buster Keaton.
This is Buster Keaton. In this video, he'll jump this gap, catch this tram, and break his neck.
In the most dangerous scenes, he would never use a double.
Not only did Buster survive his stunts, they changed cinema forever, influencing everything from Inception to Spider-Man, Mad Max, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and Jackie Chan. But before he pioneered movies, Buster started the way many great people start, getting beaten up by his dad.
What would your father do to you then, Buster, in the act?
Well, if he caught me, I got it.
4 years after Keaton was born,
I was born on a one-night stand in Kansas, a little town called Pickaway.
he was put to work.
4 years of age.
4 years of age.
My first salaried year is 1899.
Buster performed in a family show that was so convincing it got his dad arrested.
Parents were quite often arrested, thinking that they were mistreating him. And then Buster would have to go down to the chief of police, pull off his little shirt and pants, and show them that he had no bruises or broken legs.
When he laughed and had a good time on the stage, the audience didn't think it was funny.
In other words, the more seriously I took my work or whatever I was doing, the better laughs I got.
And then you kept this sort of deadpan face.
Then it became mechanical for me to work that way.
When Keaton was 21, his dad's alcoholism threatened the family act, so Buster moved on to movies, bringing his comedic talent to stunts like the car split, which was later used by Jean-Claude Van Damme in his iconic Volvo ad. 1 week's best gags involved houses. There was Keaton falling out of houses, and houses falling onto Keaton. The gag worked so well that Buster reused it, this time with a smaller hole.
The window was measured, so he had 2 inches on each shoulder and about 4 inches on top of his head. And he had a copper nail in the dirt to find and put his toes against. And the building weighed 3,000 pounds.
Could have killed him if it had
Oh,
been.
of course.
Did you do it again? Oh, no.
The falling house has since been copied by Jackie Chan, by Arrested Development, Weird Al Yankovic, and Jackass. But it was Keaton who first turned stunts into jokes.
He was the first one of that group, even with Chaplin, who could do anything he wanted with a camera, was like, let me use the camera to make a joke.
Right.
Let me use cinema itself to be the joke.
And the jokes continued off set.
Well, we always had a wonderful time because this guy was always pulling jokes on us. Mrs. Darrell Zanuck was his leading lady at the time.
What was her name then?
Virginia Fox.
Yeah.
You remember? There was a scene in one of the movies where she was supposed to fall and catch fire clothes on a moose head. This guy says, put her up there and leave her there. We put her up. Then he yelled, lunch.
In 1921's The Boat, Keaton created a rotating set technique which wouldn't become famous until it was used later. First by Stanley Kubrick, and then by Christopher Nolan, who rotated this Inception set while the camera looked in, a trick almost as impressive as Buster Keaton's car stunts. In Sherlock Jr., Buster rides a boom barrier onto a moving car, a stunt later repurposed in Mad Max. And in 7 Chances, Keaton swings on an excavator, a move later advanced by Jackie Chan. In Cops, Keaton catches a moving vehicle. And this uses a technique called undercranking, where you shoot at say 16 frames per second and then play it back at 24. So the audience sees more frames per second than what was shot, making the action look faster. Undercranking also helps hide the trick in this flying stunt. See if you can catch it. If you missed it, I'll play it again. Going frame by frame, you can see a wire lift the bottom of Keaton's jacket as he's running. And a second wire bulges at his bum when he flies. But the most amazing part of this stunt for me is the way he falls with his feet to the side at the end to avoid getting tangled in the wire.
Now this is you, Buster. If you remember, I directed a picture with you called The Navigator. This is you under the water. And that day, someone had neglected to put the piano wire on the top of your diver's helmet. And you had jumped over the side of an ocean liner in about 150 feet of water with only the telephone connection on your helmet. And if it hadn't have been for that one small wire, we'd have lost one of the kindest men I ever knew in my life.
While Keaton wasn't the first to film with water, he did invent some of its tropes, like being swept towards a deadly waterfall. Our hospitality worked, but not all of Buster's water stunts were as impressive, and it was water that broke his neck. The water pressure wasn't correctly calculated, and when Keaton fell, his neck smashed the steel rail. But the fracture wasn't diagnosed until a doctor found calluses on Keaton's neck 11 years later, and the X-ray matched the stunt. It was one of the few times Keaton actually got injured.
He only got hurt a couple times, and it wasn't his fault. Of course, he was still falling when he was 70.
Yeah.
Because he was raised doing it and knew what he was doing. He never hurt himself.
He knew how to fall.
Keaton needed to know how to fall for his second most iconic stunt of all time, the 3 Ages jump. Keaton missed, but the shot looked so good that instead of cutting it, he put an awning on the window below so that the gag could play on. The man was pioneering cinema, and he loved it.
How do you like Hollywood in the 20s?
It was more fun than it is now. We hadn't got that factory smell about us. Have punch clocks and things. When we had a day off, we used to go visit other people.
Even during the shooting of a film?
Oh, sure. Think nothing of it.
In 3 Ages, Keaton built the sets over the Broadway tunnel, shooting past his set in the foreground with the street below, with a net underneath the camera line. It bordered on magic, like this cyclone sequence where 6 Liberty Motor wind machines blasted boxes at Keaton as he was suspended by a crane. And this near miss, which was actually filmed with both Keaton and the train moving backwards. So when we watch it, we see it in reverse. Today, the impending train trope shows up everywhere. Earlier in Sherlock Jr., instead of a camera trick, Keaton uses a literal magic trick to make an escape. This gag is kind of like the sawn-in-half magic trick and the alien chestburster scene, because the body isn't where the head says it is.
And there was 2 people behind. He had 2 wooden rods that came out, and he hooked his arms over them. The minute Buster cleared, they dropped his feet down, and he walked away.
Keaton's most iconic movie was the one that ruined his career. While the General pioneered the train chase and invented the disconnecting railcars escape, it also involved the most expensive shot in history. The bridge collapse cost $42,000, the movie bombed, and Keaton was never given control over his films again. In 1930, he quit his own studio for employment at MGM, where his alcohol abuse got worse.
I mean, he used to drink, but socially, until after the divorce and the MGM thing where it fell apart. He didn't look well on the screen. Those 2 or 3 of those last ones at MGM, he did not look good.
In 1933, Keaton was found drunk in his trailer by Louis B. Mayer. The chief made Buster wrap his final MGM movie, What? No Beer, then fired him. While Keaton never recovered his filmmaking independence, he did get sober.
Years later, you move in with your mom into the first little house that you'd bought for her. And to your home comes a girl who has made friends with your family, a girl who is to remove any possible remainder of disappointment in your life. And here she is, Eleanor Norris, who became your devoted wife 16 years ago, Mrs. Keaton.
He was into heavy drinking for about a year and a half.
Oh.
And then he dried out. He never touched a drop for 5 years. And all the later years of our marriage, he would have a glass of beer before dinner. That was his cocktail. And that was it.
Buster didn't care who got the laughs. He looked way beyond that. He looked to the people that needed laughter. Needed one of the greatest cures like medicine is laughter. And I believe that you're one of the greatest doctors of comedy.
At the end of his life, when Buster Keaton died in 1966, he was not only a legend, he was, by all reports, happy.
The little man who never smiled has found a lot to smile about. This is your life. Gifted comedian, Buster Keaton.